Hello, my name is Tommaso Poglio, music producer for most of the meditation music you hear on the Spirit in Action YouTube channel. The beautiful half of the Spirit in Action team, writer and counsellor Claire, joins me today. Hello, Claire.
Hi, Tommaso, and everybody else.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this podcast, Claire. These podcasts are companions to the daily meditations that we produce freely for you to hear on YouTube. We are now close to 70 guided meditations now. Today, though, I'd love to talk more about the 8th meditation we produced a few years ago now. It was called Changing Our Belief Systems. In that meditation, Claire, the first thing you say is when we have thoughts, for example, say that come from lack, not being good enough, in fact, all negative thoughts, we must acknowledge them, allow them to be there, but remove and replace them with thoughts that are harmonic and life-giving. I especially love the next thing you say. Over time, the new thoughts grow in us and change our reality. Could we perhaps elaborate on this point?
Okay, well, negative thoughts tend to come more easily than positive ones because cortisol, which is a chemical in your brain, encourages negative thoughts and it flows quite easily and literally can take the joy out of life. So the more mindful and aware we become of our triggers and patterns and see them more clearly, we can work with them and transform them into more life-giving ones, which brings basically more happiness and peace. Negative thoughts tend to linger until you let go basically of them. Negative thoughts can snowball very quickly, and we have to remember what you focus on grows. So a small positive thought can blossom into more joyful outcomes. Negative thoughts are hard to focus on, but the more you do that, the more positive outcomes you will have.
So the positive thought, no matter how small it is,
Can start to blossom, yes.
whereas what about a negative thought?
Well, they get bigger and bigger the more we focus on them.
So whatever you're focusing on will grow.
Absolutely. So talking about removing and replacing, again, I've said this before, we have to understand that your feelings and the sensations in the body come in cycles. As we transform and the old comes up, it will come up as it always did. So it's not going to stop just because you put your focus somewhere else. And in fact, it shouldn't. We must allow it and acknowledge it. Why we remove and replace is so we build new neural pathways, we build new positive thoughts within us. We have to really be aware of our inner critic. It really loves to make us feel inadequate, not good enough. So we have to talk to ourselves and challenge it. You have to say, is there any real evidence that this is true? Talk to yourself and choose not to engage in the negative. Once we start to look at the evidence, we'll find that things will fall apart. And as we become more aware of our triggers, you can start to prepare yourself to be more in control.
So I guess over time we hopefully stop over-identifying ourselves.
Yes, we don't want to fall into our old habitual negative responses. We have to be aware of that. So writing down how your thoughts and feelings can be very helpful because it can start to help you identify them quicker and see whether they are really accurate.
Yes.
And be gentle and compassionate on yourself. Seeing what you do is a lot easier than stopping what you do. Look and ask, what triggered me? Are my thoughts truthful or factual? Or are they my interpretations? We build such strong stories of falsities in our mind.
Or other falsities that have been given to you by other opinions.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's taken me a while to grasp, and I mean, of course I still forget, and I do take things personally still, even though somewhere in the back of my mind it's saying, well, it's not really about you.
Well, that's why I say you're not going to stop feeling what you felt. But it's only through removing and replacing can we build a new story in us?
Yes.
And the reason we keep them neutral is so they don't build up new conditions in us.
Yeah, one thing you've always reminded me is that as we grow in the ability to stop what we are doing, we basically learn to refrain from blaming others for the way we feel. And this has totally changed my relationship with everyone, with my parents and others around me. It felt like a big weight was lifted off me, and just in time too. I was able to make peace with certain people before they passed on, and it's been liberating and empowering.
Well, I think it is empowering because then you take responsibility for your life and the choices you make, and also the effect that things have on you. You will actually feel like a weight has come off you, and it is empowering.
Yes. And you start seeing people in different light.
Well, that's right. We start to see how they're all coming from their own inner dialogue.
Yes, and it creates a lot of peace as well.
Yeah. Well, as you learn to take control of yourself, you will feel more in life and become more joyous. And more of you becomes more evident.
There's one thing you say that I would require more clarification is our unconscious becomes more conscious.
As it becomes more conscious.
Yes. Yeah. The moment we start to take control of our lives and ourselves.
That's right. And we start to, and if we question things and look at the evidence for things become clearer.
Oh, I see. So the unconscious would be the things that you weren't aware was happening.
Well, yes, absolutely.
For example...
Well, perhaps you're not aware of how you set a scenario up with someone and you think it's them doing it, but it might actually be you. For example, I'll try and think of an easy, quick example. Just say you go and visit a friend and you take offence of something they say. Well, you may just be assuming. You might not know where they're coming from. And so the whole view of something is completely wrong. I think I told you this story, but I'll just repeat it because this is a true story of this lady who used to come to me. She's a lawyer. One day her boss came through her office and completely ignored her. Well, she phoned me because she got incredibly upset. And I said, well, I want you to go and ask him and tell him that he had done that. So she did. And because her inner dialogue was not feeling acknowledged. So she went and asked him and he said, I'm so sorry, I had just heard my brother had died. So in other words, his focus just wasn't on anything but that. And she had taken it incredibly personally, and that's not how it was meant. So things can snowball. Things are not what they often seem.
So this meditation is all about changing our belief systems. So Claire, how do we change our belief systems?
Well, the first thing is to see what belief systems you have, to look at them, and then identify, are they real? Is it factual? Is this what I really believe? Or is this just come from what I've been taught or shown as a child? As we start to review those things, we can see what's helpful to us and what isn't. And so that's when we have to start to make a decision. This isn't what I want to focus or believe anymore. I want to change it. And the more you reach your own inner peace, the more effect it has on the outer world.
And the people around you.
And the people around you. So what do you think changes people more than anything?
Your example?
Example, that's right. So be the example you want to be. And you know, when you look at world news and lots of it is so negative, if you can't handle it, don't watch it.
I mean, that's their job.
There's always been conflicts,
Yeah.
but there's always many beautiful and lovely things happening at the same time. Unfortunately, that doesn't sell. You only see certain aspects.
Yeah, you're right. You wouldn't click on something like fireman saves kitten from a tree
That's why I think I told you I've been watching this Turkish drama show, which I love. And it's a total soap opera, but it's got and it's completely ridiculous, but it's also got some very profound parts in it. But the one thing I love about it is that the portrayal of Muslims is completely different from the portrayal of Muslims in most daily life. They are seen as very loving, kind and humanitarian people, which I believe they are anyway. A majority. There's always the extremists in every religion or philosophy. But it's such a pleasure to see something that's built like that rather than...
the cliche.
Also the cliche, you know?
There is a movie that I think they did it on purpose. You ever seen Team America? I mean, they pile on the cliche.
And I mean, unfortunately, sad, bad stories sell.
Yes, and people seem drawn to it. Is it because then they feel better about themselves?
No, I think it's because cortisol loves being in control. It loves to...
Drama.
See the good in everybody. I was brought up by my mother like that. My mother was quite an extraordinary woman. She had 6 children. There's a year between each of us.
Wow.
And yet she would just turn up with people. And sometimes they'd stay for months. People in need, she'd just turn up with them and they'd stay. Nothing was ever said. My father was very British colonialist sort of thing, but he never argued, he never said a word.
He knew better.
You know, I mean, that's kind of generosity of spirit.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing. We should always be generous to people.
That generosity of spirit usually happens at times of crisis. Like I heard after 9/11 in New York, people for a few days after were very kind to one another.
Well, that's why good comes out of bad. Sure, but we should be like that all the time. And I do think there's certain cultures that are more in that way inclined.
Is that because they've had a harder time of life?
Well, I think it's got many things. It can be history, culture, all sorts of things.
Yeah, I found that with the southern part of Italy, the generosity there. And they call them the poorer half. I worked for this great company called Freeze Frame Opera, and during the lockdown last year when things were looking pretty bleak in Perth, it was the feeling people had that was down. The founder of Freeze Frame Opera set up a truck where she would take people, singers, mobile, and we'd perform outside houses of people that were locked down.
I know you came to my house.
Oh yes, we came to your house too. But I remember that goodwill feeling was wonderful. Like at the early stages when people really felt like they needed that lift during that time, and it was a wonderful feeling
of being appreciated.
Yeah, and of course, as things became a bit more back to normal, we noticed the shift in how people perceived it, and then it sort of changed. It wasn't as goodwill-y. It was more like it turned into something like we were just entertainment for a party or something, and the feeling totally changed.
Yeah.
People became more demanding again, and it's fascinating how...
Well, a bit like, at the end of the war, when the war was on, you felt people coming together and helping one another, supporting one another. I think certain situations bring the best out of people. Then we forget when everything's all right in our lives that they're not always all right for other people.
That's right.
And to be open to giving a helping hand.
Yes. Remember you saying, how do you know that...
How do you know the downside isn't better than the upside? It's a saying by Shams, Persian philosopher, poet, really.
And it's what you take from it too, right?
Absolutely.
Because you can let it destroy you.
Yeah, and we, as I say, we presume all the time.
Yes.
And the thing is, that can be so subtle and so deep within us that it may take quite a while for us to realise it.
You're quite a while. Even a whole lifetime, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lifetimes.
But it's never too late.
Right. Oh, thank you, Claire. If you would like to learn more about what Claire has been speaking about, you can make an appointment with Claire by clicking on the link below. If you found benefits from this video, please give us a like and subscribe to the Spirit in Action channel. And check out our other videos in meditation and relaxing music. If anyone would like to learn more about what Claire has been speaking about, you can actually make an appointment with Claire by clicking on the link below. And she works face-to-face, or if you don't live in Perth, Western Australia, that's where we're from, you can actually Skype. Yes, she's au fait with all the technological things.
Just about.
Just about. With a little help. So you can also talk to her over that. If you have found benefits from this video, please give us a like and subscribe to the Spirit in Action channel. And check out our other videos of meditation and relaxing music. Thank you. And thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Tommaso.